Hi, this is Module 3, the interviews. I interviewed a para, our special ed teacher, and my administrator, and asked them several questions regarding special education in our building. The first question I asked was what was our child find procedures. Our para really had no idea. She just knows that she gets the kids. As far as my special education teacher, she said that we rely on our preschool screenings, a group called Parents as Teachers, Count Your Kid In, and classroom teacher observations throughout the school year. Many of the students come to us identified in the earlier grades, but 2nd through 5th grade, that is grade level span that relies heavily on classroom teachers. Whereas preschool and kindergarten, a lot of time there are outside agencies that have identified the students already. The administrator said some students come to preschool already identified by an outside agency. Preschool teachers do a lot of screening for that, and classroom teachers as well. Certain grades have screenings for dental and hearing and vision, which are all part of the initial evaluation that students go through to make sure that they can hear and see properly, that there aren't any disabilities that are associated with that. And kindergarten and 1st grade are very heavily screened for problems dealing with their eyesight and their hearing. What is the most challenging aspect of our job? The para said inconsistency and lack of training. Having their schedules be changed often, what they're doing from day to day, schedules not being the same, the expectations not being the same from one teacher to another, makes it very trying. The lack of training. A lot of times they are expected to do the job of a teacher without any of the training. Many of them reported that they are making all the accommodations, they are making the lesson plans, and they don't really feel like they are adequately prepared to do such. The special education teacher said the most challenging aspect was communicating. She had so many people to communicate with that oftentimes it gets overwhelming to be able to make sure that they're communicating properly with the regular ed teacher, the parents, the teacher, the administration, the child study team, to make sure everybody knows the data and how they're performing. That constant communication was really something she stressed about. The administration said time. So many children are being identified, and so many parents are requesting that testing, and that puts a lot of time constraints on us because there's only so many days that you have in order to be able to make sure that testing gets done. However, there's so many kids that need to have that evaluation completed, and there's just not enough time in the day or the school year to get it done. All three said the most rewarding aspect was building the relationships with the students and the parents. They all reported the nice thing was they work with the student year after year after year. Regular education teachers, they only get a student for maybe a year, maybe 2 if they're looping. However, the paras and the special education teacher administration, they see that child and that parent and that family from the time they enter the school until the time that they leave the school. And they said that was one huge reward because you could really see the growth and the relationships build with those families. What advice do they have on supervision of staff? The para said to speak to her, not at her, and to give feedback, both positive and negative. Want to feel like they are a team member and not an isolated individual that is just being commanded to do things. The special education teacher said that it was important to be clear with the expectations, to observe and get feedback, and to make calendars and schedules public. One large hurdle we have in our school is the calendars and schedules were not made public, and no one was really meeting the needs of the child. Everyone thought somebody else was, but when it came down to it, we found a lot of people were taking breaks when they weren't supposed to be breaks, but no one really questioned it because there wasn't really a checks and balance system set in place for accountability. The administration said similar things: to be involved, to treat them with respect, and model your expectations. It's important to be active. We have one teacher in the building who she does not see kids. She just basically walks the halls and says that she is being available in case there's a crisis and a child needs to be taken from a classroom. So she never actually serves any children. And that's really hard for her paras because what she's modeling is not the expectation that we would expect to have. Therefore, the teachers or the paras kind of just take breaks as well when they want. They come, they go. They'd rather go do a bulletin board than work with the class, the student. That's what they do. And as an administrator, it's important to understand everybody's roles and everybody's schedules and what the expectation is, and make sure everyone is following through with that. How do you work effectively with parents? The paras said that she often sits in on conferences and gives feedback on an as-needed basis. She does sit in on many students' conferences that she's had multiple years. The SPED teacher said constant communication, communicating through emails, through text, through phone calls, through IEP meetings, through they have a lot of the students have a check sheet or a folder that they carry back and forth every day that relays information from the parents to the home and from school to the home, as a lot of times what's going on in one place affects what's going on at the other. So making sure that you are in constant communication with the parents and understanding what has gone on in the child's life earlier and what the expectations are. The administration said to listen, to be compassionate and offer support, not always a solution. Sometimes parents just want to be listened to, not to be told you should do it this way. So being compassionate and listening is essential. How do you work effectively with regular education teachers? The paras said that they attend their weekly grade level meetings, and that has really helped. This is the first year they've done that, and that has really helped to make them feel like they are a part of the team, not an isolated individual. They already know what's going to be the objective of the week, and so they can better make modifications for the students that they're serving and be better prepared. The special education teacher said that she attends professional development with them on a weekly basis, and that really helps them look at data to understand how the students that they serve are doing and the growth they are making. They also communicate via email and daily check-in. Anytime a student is pulled, when they bring them back, they always give quick feedback how they did, what they're working on, that type of event. The administration said just explaining the law is the law and that certain things must be followed through in certain ways. We had an instance earlier this year where we had 2 students who were performing below grade level, but their IEP said that their core reading program needed to be served with class within a class, not pull out. And the regular education teacher and the para kept pulling the child, and because they felt that that's what was best for them because the work in the classroom was too difficult. So it came down to the administrator just saying, this is the law, this is the way their IEP is written, and it must be followed whether you agree with it or not. And ever since they had that little come together meeting, things have been going much more smoothly. Advice for a first-year administrator. The para said, observe. Find out what's going on and be present. A lot of the paras and sped teachers can easily hide because everybody thinks that they're always somewhere else, and that has left one or two paras in my building doing the majority of the work, which creates bitter feelings towards people. And so it's important to observe and figure out who's doing what. The SPED teacher said to understand the schedules effectively and to make sure you utilize personnel efficiently and effectively. To make sure that you've got your schedules going so you're covering the most amount of students that you can in a timely manner. Grouping kids appropriately, making sure schedules all mesh. The administration said to be clear, set expectations, and be in the know. Understand what is going on in the building at all times. Know who is doing what and who is in charge of what students and their duties. Describe the role of the special education teacher and the administrator. The para said the special education teacher is responsible for making sure students are working towards mastering their goals, where the SPED teacher said that she is the IEP manager and that the administrator and the SPED teacher are both in charge of making sure that the IEPs are carried out correctly. And the administration reported that she held the most responsibility, that ultimately it is her responsibility to make sure that all the laws are followed by all the staff members, and that it's the SPED's job to basically understand what their goals are and how they're going to be able to reach their goal, to be able to change the curriculum in a way that fits that student's needs. What characteristics do you see in an inspiring administrator? The para said one who listens to everyone, one who is compassionate, and one who is decisive, that they could be able to make a decision whether it's a hard one or whether everybody's going to agree with it or not, but someone who can make a decision and then stick with it. The SPED teacher said one who is passionate for all kids, not just some. A lot of times you'll see administrators who really favor all your athletes in a high school, and they're not really involved with the special education students or the ones that are in Science Olympiad. So making sure that you have a passion for all students, and it's important to be able to communicate clearly. The administration said someone who can communicate clearly, so that they both agreed on, and think strategically and listen to others. It's important to be able to think strategically when you're looking at the schedules, to be able to cover everybody's minutes with only a few amount of people. So being able to think creatively to figure out how that can be done. Class is dismissed. That's all we have for Module 3. Hope you guys have a great week.